Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah in advance. We're about to get tonight's services started. We're going to do our rendition of Pasach. There's a lot of different calendar counts out here, and I did share with everybody that the more accurate count would have been April 3rd, sundown. But we're going to get things together. Everything's going to be okay. We're still in the rehearsal part of Torah, so we're going to keep moving forward from here on out. But again, it's a pleasure seeing everybody here today. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All my beautiful sisters. I mean, it just does my heart good. I mean, just to see everybody again in Torah, in the set-apart spirit, in the Ruach. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. I can't say that enough. I'm looking forward to this day, and we're here. We're here again. Hallelujah. Okay, Mishpachah, what we're going to do is go ahead and get services started tonight. And we're going to blow the shofar 7 times. But tonight we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be representing all 4 corners, east, west, north, and south. And this is going to represent to our brothers that are scattered abroad.
Hallelujah.
All right, so we're going to send our prayers and blessings to the whole Mishpachah, as it tells us in the book of James, first chapter, to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. All right, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get things started. And we'll have, at the end of blowing the shofar 7 times, we have Yeketi Kiel to do the prayers for us, all right? All right, let's go. Okay.
Commemorating Pasach, allowing all of us to travel here and be able to partake in fellowship in Mishpachah today. We just ask that you just be with us and help guide us to our hearts and understanding. Ask that you be with the Morehs and the lessons, and thank you again for everything that you've given us today, the food, the gathering, and the time off to be here. And we just ask that you just watch over us. And we thank you for your son, Yashra'al, the ultimate sacrifice. And just ask that you just continue to be with us and help us to have understanding today and give praise and esteem to your name and to honor and to set apart this day in remembrance of Pasach. We pray, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Okay, Mishpachah, this is going to be yours here. That's going to be yours. Glasses here. Ready to rock and roll. Again, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, every single body, every brother and sister here in the congregation of Yashra'al. I can't say it enough how good it is to see everybody here today. I mean, I am so enthused. I'm happy, man. I am such in a good mood, you just don't know. I mean, nothing can dampen my spirits today. Seeing all the brothers and sisters here, being that there's a time difference, with my schedule, used to being here on Shabbat, so just to see everybody here in one accord, it really does me good. It really does me good here. Mr. McCall, I have a ton of stuff to talk about here tonight, but we're going to have to slow it down and keep it within certain parameters here, all right? So we're going to keep it down to an hour and a half. Zakar has shared some information with me. I've done some research on it to make sure that it was on the up and up. So I've just been doing a whole lot of reading the last couple of days, man, and doing research. And once I did the research, all right, I had to check it. And then once I checked it, I had to double check it. After I double checked it, triple checked it. So I was like running crazy yesterday, just making sure everything was nice and tight. The I's were dotted. The T's were crossed, so I just wanted to make sure that today's lesson is on point. The title of today's class is going to be called the Zodiac and the Father's Salvation Plan. And it's all centered around Pasach. So again, the Zodiac and the Father's Salvation Plan. But before we get involved into today's lesson, you want to make sure that we give all the names to the Father, the mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If it wasn't for that covenant that the Father made with Abraham, none of us would be here today. And that is very, very important for us to understand that covenant that the Father made with Abraham. That is essential to every single last one of us. Okay, Mr. Cobb, we're going to begin today's lesson, all right? The Zodiac and the Father's Salvation Plan. We want to begin by acknowledging a new congregation of Yashra'al motto and creed. All right? We have a new motto and creed. The motto and creed is this. It's because I love every brother and sister here so much. No brother nor sister is allowed to leave the body of the congregation of Yashra'al. You can't leave. Once I got to know you, Moreh got a chance to know you. Zodiac got a chance to know you. The sisters got a chance to know everybody. If we were to leave, it would be like losing a literal member of our bodies here. I mean, we have grown to love and respect one another, and we really need to make sure that we are sincere in every single thing that we're doing. Everything that we're doing, because the time is shorter than we might believe. I can look at the constellations now, Mishpachar, and if this thing is correct, all right, all hell is about to break loose.
Yes.
And if we don't have it together now, I guarantee you will not have it together once the thing hits the fan. You will not have it. So again, no brother or sister is allowed to lead the congregation of Yashra'al. Everyone must agree, okay? Everyone must agree to give their life for the rest of their life, because this is what Yahushua HaMashiach did for us. If he gave his life for our life, it's going to be our responsibility to do the same for one another. And that's one thing that we don't like to do. We don't like to give our lives for the next brother or sister. Nobody is really willing to make that sacrifice. And like I've said so many times before, I don't care how many scriptures you know. I don't care. I don't care how many breakdowns you have. But if you can't love your brothers and sisters, you're not really going anywhere. You're not. So again, let's go ahead and get some scriptures to prove some of these things here. We're going to go first to the book of Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 62. All right, the book of Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 62. And we just get it, and we're going to get our chief, Zakein Gabar Yahu, to read that. for us, and I want everybody to please, please, please pay very close attention. Let me say this first and foremost. This is my disclaimer. This class today is about nobody in particular. All right? This is all about strengthening the congregation. Strengthen the congregation. Now, we're a family, so we should all be big men and big women here where we can take correction when needed. Myself being first. All right? So the book of Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 62. Zacchaeus, if you could read there for us nice and loud, please.
Hallelujah. The book of Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 62. And Yahushua said unto him, no man, having put his hand to the plow, and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of Elohim.
That's personal. That is personal. There is nothing that I can say that can hurt your feelings. We're talking about salvation here. And I'm sure that everybody is here because they want to make it to the other side. Nobody wants to stay here. Everybody made that conscious decision here tonight to come here and observe Pasach, but there are criteria, all right, that you need to have in order to now be part of the congregation of Yashra'al. So I just want you to read that one more time for us as I can. Make sure that everybody hears this. This is not what Kasadahba said. This is not what Moreh said. This is not what Zacchaeus said, all right? These scriptures was written down before we were born. So if you have an issue, you have a problem, take it up with the Father. All right, read it one more time, please.
Luke 9, verse 62. And Yahushua HaMashiach said unto him, no man, having put his hand to the plow, and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of Elohim.
Hallelujah. We're going to keep on going. We're going to go to the book of James. The book of Yaakov, the book of James, the first chapter, verses 6 through 8. This warfare here, Mr. Carr, is personal. So if you're real sensitive and your feelings are easy to get hurt, this is not the place for you. James, the first chapter, verses 6 through 8.
The book of Yaakov, or James 1, verse 6. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of Yahuwah. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Right, so we need consistency. This is what we need. We need to be consistent in this walk. However we was last year, this year we should be better people. Just take the time and acknowledge and look at yourselves and see whether or not you're growing in Torah.
Hallelujah.
Nobody here should be the same person that they were last year. All right, let's go to 2 Peter. 2 Peter. All right, the 2nd chapter. 20 to 22.
2 Peter 2, verse 20. For if after they have escaped the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of Yahuwah and the Savior Yahushua HaMashiach, they are again entangled therein, and overcome, the latter end is worse with them than the beginning. For it had been
again, just to make sure, I want everybody to pay very close attention. Start from the top again, verse 20.
2 Peter 2, verse 20. For if after they have escaped the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of Yahushua HaMashiach, they are again entangled therein, and overcome, the latter end is worse with them than the beginning.
Wow.
For it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they have known it to turn from the set apart commandment delivered unto them, but it has happened unto them according to the true proverb. the dog is turned to his own vomit again, and the soul that was washed to her wallowing in the mire. Wow.
That goes without saying.
Yes.
Mishpachah, we cannot turn back now. Like the old song goes, too late to turn back now.
That's right.
Too late to turn back now. I mean, the times are really, really critical, and I pray that everybody's watching the news, watching what's going on around them. We are living in some real critical times here, so please pay very close attention to what's going on. I'm going to read the next couple of scripts here. Okay, the book of Exodus, or the book of Shemot, the 32nd chapter. And we're going to be bringing out some stuff from Mishpachah, so please pay very, very close attention. The book of Exodus, the 32nd chapter, verses 1 through 10 is where I'm going to be reading from. And when the people, which is Yashra'al, saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mountain, Moshe went inside the mountain and had this conversation with the Father. Oh wait, Yahushua HaMashiach was representing the Father. They saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount. The people gathered themselves together unto Aharon and said unto him, Up, make us Elohims, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aharon said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives or your Ishas, of your sons. So even the men wore earrings, but no males going to come in here with bamboo earrings. We're not going to do that, all right? So, but earrings was a custom, what was it, the right ear or the left ear? The left? It was the left ear? Okay, because we see a lot of depictions of our people did wear an earring. But anyway, which are the ears of your Ishas, your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in the ears, and brought them unto Aharon. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool. And he made it a molten calf. That's going to be very important. And they fashioned it, and he made a molten calf, and they said, These be thy Elohims, O Yashra'al, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And Aharon saw it, he built an altar. Okay, we had this golden calf, then he built an altar before it, and Aharon made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast. That word feast is very, very important. So now we have the nation of Yashra'al said that Moses has been gone for a very long time. Anybody know about how long Moses was gone before Israel started to act up? So you're talking about around about 40 days here. This is around about 40 days. Then we have this golden calf being made, and they're talking about a feast or a festival. But this golden calf now is supposed to be in honor of the father Abiahur. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose to play. And the father said unto Moses, Go get thee down, for your people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy Elohims, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And the father said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people, even as it is this day. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, and will make thee, Moses, of a great nation. And Moses besought the Father, his Elohim, and said, Father, why doeth thy wrath wax hot against your people, which you hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt, with great power and with a mighty hand? Now, we have to really put on our thinking caps here. Israel left Egypt when? What time of the year was this? Okay, this was the springtime. We have Moses gone, okay, so the springtime. Let's do this here, flip this around here a little bit. Make sure everybody is totally over here. Okay, springtime. $40 days later will put you about what time of the month? Anybody know when the spring begins?
April. March. You talking about this time, or I thought it was April?
Yeah, between March and April.
Yeah.
Okay, March and April. Moses is gone 40 days. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up here a little bit. Moses is gone 40 days. This now puts us around the time of the summer, around June. A golden calf is made. This golden calf is an astrological sign of Aspis the bull. These are constellations. We have now Israel not understanding that there was a constellation change. The constellation change has gone from Taurus or Aspis the bull into Aries the lamb. Everybody see what just happened here? Because it was a festival that they were having in the wilderness. Israel was not again at this point fully knowledgeable on how to read the constellations. From Genesis to Revelation is all about constellations. All of it. And I'll leave that right there. We're going to build on that. Zakane, if you could get the book of Shemot, the 5th chapter, we're going to really need our thinking caps on today, Mr. Cobb. The 5th chapter, verses 1 through 3.
The book of Shemot, or Exodus 5 verse 1. And after Moshe and Aharon went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness.
Anybody know what this feast is? You said Pasach. Where was Israel when the blood was put on the doorpost?
Oh, wait a minute, no. Pasach was before that. You're right.
So Moses is talking about that the children of Israel needs to leave Egypt and participate in a feast in the wilderness. Shavuot. All right. Read on verse 2. This is very important, verse 2.
And Pharaoh said, who is Yahuwah, that I should obey his voice, to let Yashra'al go? I know not Yahuwah, neither will I let Israel go. And they said, the Elohim of the Hebrews have met with us. Let us go, we pray you, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto Yahuwah our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword.
Right, hallelujah. For they said, the Elohim of the Hebrews. The Elohim of the Hebrews. That's going to be very important. The Elohim of the Hebrews. Pharaoh says that he knows not of this Elohim, Yahuwah. Anybody know in detail, reading the story real carefully, what is happening here? Moses now wants to leave Egypt, go into the wilderness, and make a sacrifice unto Yahuwah Elohim. Pharaoh says, I don't know this Yahuwah Elohim. Is it that Pharaoh didn't know Yahuwah Elohim? Or was it that Pharaoh didn't understand there was now a constellation change? The Egyptians were, at this point, bull worshippers, or Taurus the bull. That was the constellation that we were under prior to leaving Israel. All right, so this conversation that Moses is having with Pharaoh, Pharaoh is not understanding that there is a climate change. Let's say a climate change, a constellation change. And when there's a constellation change, there's a new Elohim that's now about to come into power. Listen to what I just said. Another Elohim. Are there more than one Elohim? There's an Elohim of Elohims. But we talked about an Elohim who is an Elohim of the Hebrews. There are Elohims, but there's an Elohim that governs and protects the nation of Yashra'al. All right? Zakane, if you can go to the book of Devarim. Devarim, the 32nd chapter. 7 through 9.
The book of Devarim, or Deuteronomy 32, verse 7.
Yeah, stop at each verse so I can kind of elaborate on it a little bit. If need be.
Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they will tell you.
Right, so this is talking about the nation of Yashra'al. We need to go back to the days of old and figure out actually what is actually going on at this particular junction when Israel is about to leave Egypt. Read on.
Verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance.
Each nation got an inheritance. When the Most High divided the nations, and so far as we know that there are 70 nations. 70 nations. The nations were divided. Read on.
When he separated the sons of Adam.
When he separated the sons of Adam.
He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Yashra'al.
Right. According to the messengers of the Father of Yahuwah. When you read that in the Greek Septuagint, it says according to the stars or the messengers of the Father of Yahuwah. Read on.
For Yahuwah's portion is his people. Yaakov is the lot of his inheritance.
That speaks volumes. If there's other Elohims, there's 70 nations, and the Father of Yahuwah's portion is Yashra'al. Everybody sees what's going on here? 70 nations. The Father gave Yahushua HaMashiach, the nation of Yashra'al, to be his people. And there are other Elohims. All right? The book of Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, please. 17:17. And remember now, there's a conversation that Moses is having with Pharaoh, and he's not understanding that there was about to be a constellation change. Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha 17:17.
Ecclesiasticus 17, verse 17. For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people, but Yashra'al is Yahuwah's portion.
So again, if there's 20, 30 people in here, And Moreh has his portion. His portion would be the nation of Yashra'al. But everybody else here are also mighty ones. But what's going to happen now, at the end of the day, all of the other Elohims will have to now pay homage to the one and only Elohim, which is Yahshua HaMashiach, because he is the firstborn. Because remember, even Hashatan was a priest. At one point, he was a priest. And so we're going to go into a little bit more into these constellations to try to shed some more light on this. But we're talking about a constellation change. The book of Shemot, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 2. Shemot, Exodus, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 2. I'm going to read that one as I can. It says, "And the father of Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon in the land of Egypt, saying, this month." I was speaking with a brother a couple of days ago, and I said, what should have stood out to you the most in verse 2, where the father is having a conversation with Moses, and he's telling him, this month. Anybody know why the father told Moses this month would be the beginning of the year?
It was going by the Egyptian calendar.
Right, and exactly. So we have what they call the Dandurian calendar. So this month, in comparison to another calendar cycle that Moses wasn't quite he was familiar with it because he grew up and understood all the ways of the Egyptians. So the father's not making the distinction now. When does the year begin? Does the year begin in June? And the reason why the Egyptians was looking at June as the beginning of the year, because what would happen during the time, in the month of June, they would have an overflowing of the Nile Valley River. It would overflow its banks. And once all of the minerals that was inside of the water would come upon the land, and then it would recede back into its normal banks again, it would leave deposits in the land, and those deposits now will break down into the soil now and make the soil fertile. So this is how they was actually doing their new year. So, not June, what'd you say? Not June, but this month, and that month was the month of Abib. That is now the beginning of the year for the nation of Yashra'al. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Zakim, the book of Tehillim, or the book of Psalms, the 19th chapter, and we're going to read down there a little bit here. And what we're going to talk about here, Mr. Cobb, we're going to step it up a little bit more. The unheard conversation in Shamayim. Again, the unheard conversation in Shamayim, and we're going to go to the book of Psalms. The book of Tehillim, the 19th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6.
Tehillim, or Psalms 19, verse 1. The heavens declare the esteem of Elohim, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
Right, so we're talking about the stars, the sun. We'll do it this way. The sun, the stars, and the moon. These show forth the Father's handiwork, but to be more specific with it, when we look at the sun, the moon, and the stars, we're talking about here the constellations. The constellations are telling a story. Read on.
Verse 2. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge.
So when it says day unto day uttereth speech, which luminary are we talking about?
Sun.
Right, the sun. So there's a conversation, or there's something that we should be understanding about the sun. And make mention, notice now is that it made mention of the greater luminary first, which is the sun, and then it talked about night into night showeth knowledge, and the night into night is talking about what constellation?
Stars.
The stars?
Yeah. Moon and stars.
Right, so we have the moon and the stars. Because actually the sun, I'm gonna write it that way, the sun is also a star. Okay, read on.
Verse 3, there is no speech, nor language, where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom cometh out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race.
Right, verse 5. It makes mention of a very, very important constellation. This constellation is said, we have verse 4, their line is going out. The word there is plural. Their line is, we'll talk about this, what this line is a little bit later on, but their line is going out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them have he set a tabernacle, first and foremost, for the sun. This sun is a bridegroom. The bridegroom is who? Right, the Mashiach. Absolutely. This tabernacle, in layman's terms, what we know today would be houses or ports. Which is a bridegroom come out of his chamber and rejoices as a strong man to run a race. So it's running a race, and we'll talk about that. What is this race that is running? Verse 6.
Psalms 19, verse 6. His going forth is from the end of Shamayim, and his circuit unto the ends of it. And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof.
So we know that he's talking about the sun. Now, important words to understand the Mazzaroth, because the word is, we talked about the Zodiac. What we're talking about here is actually Mazzaroth, or the Mazzaroth. The Greek word is Zodiac. And one word that we need to make sure that we understand before we move further with this lesson. One of the words that we need to be able to understand is the word ecliptic. Ecliptic is the annual path of the sun, is running its race, is the annual path of the sun in the Shamayims, marking key territories or houses. All right, again, it's the annual path of the sun in the heavens, marking the key territories of houses. The next word is constellations. Constellations are a particular group of stars that the sun goes through to make specific or to mark specific times, like Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Leo, Virgo, Libra, just for example. All right, just for example. When we talk about these stars, they come together and they formulate what we call a constellation. And what's happening now, when Israel came out of Egypt, Israel left Egypt under the constellation of Aries Duran. Aries Duran makes a certain constellation sign in Shamayim. And so when it talks about the handiwork of the Father, and his works are from one end to the next, and it's a conversation. The Father's trying to share with us now that there's a change in a cycle, the change in the season. So he's communicating with Moses, telling Moses that there was a change in the constellations from Taurus to actually Aries Duran. We're going to get into that a little bit more. We have the next one is called deacons, spelled D-E. They're called deacons. This stuff is very, very important. There was a time when we knew this. I mean, it was like ABCs. We knew all of this. And I'm telling you, if you really want to know what's going on and how to read the scriptures, especially the book of Revelation, you're going to really need to understand these constellations, the elliptical path of the sun, and how these things are actually moving. When I got a chance to actually last night go outside, because I have a software now where I can actually now see the constellations, see the elliptical path of the sun as it's moving. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. I once had a telescope, but somebody broke all the lenses and it just tore it all up, and I don't know what happened to it. So we're gonna leave that person out of it. All right. So, but anyway, that was me though. I'm only kidding. That was me. I was the one that broke the telescope. So, but anyway though, what I wanted to share now is that these constellations are very important. So deacons are actually now, there are 36 segments or minor constellations on the elliptical path of the sun, consisting of 10 degrees each. To prove that, she got an A in this. I mean, she knew the whole thing about the 10 degrees, and we did the count with the how many days was in the hour and everything like that. But watch this now. We're going to go a little bit deeper. Go to the book of Isaiah, the 38th chapter, verses 1 through 8. Remember we went through the whole thing about the 10 degrees and how to tell time, and it's not actually 24 hours in a day, and what makes up an hour. We did the whole breakdown of that. If not, we'll go over it again. But again, the whole class received it, and I didn't have any questions, so I guess everybody understood it. But again, because it was a whole lot. So I just like math, and I like looking at, just like Moreh had shared, I think it was last week, the way that you get a greater understanding or overstanding of the scriptures is that you read that stuff that nobody else wants to read. When you begin to read, okay, that Levitical priesthood, okay, and what those priests were actually doing, and the names in the book of Chronicles, and how that whole thing sets up with the 24 courses of Abijah, that's the stuff that people don't want to read. Yeah. That's where the gold nuggets are at. Yeah. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more. What a lot of people miss when they read the 24 courses of Abijah, when they read about the Levitical priesthood, there was another priesthood that was running side by side with the Levitical priesthood, which was the Melchizedek priesthood, running right side by side with it. And we're going to have to get into that, but there's a whole lot more to that, a whole lot more. But the book of Yashra'al, the 38th chapter, verses 1 through 8, Zakane, please.
The book of Yashra'al, or Isaiah 38, verse 1. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, came unto him and said unto him, Thus saith Yahuwah, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live.
Wow. And Hezekiah was a righteous man. Read on.
Then Hezekiah turned his face toward the wall and prayed unto Yahuwah, and said, Remember now, O Yahuwah, I beseech you, how I have walked before you in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in your sight. And Hezekiah wept sore.
Okay, stop right there. There was so much that was said right there, but we only going to touch on it. When we read who Hezekiah was, and to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there were two priesthoods running along the side of the Levitical priesthood, Hezekiah was after and running after the order of Melchizedek. We're going to show that in Scripture. Now, read on. Hezekiah is about to die, set his house in order. Hezekiah is pleading and praying to the Father how righteous he was. Okay, set your house in order. All right, but we all have to eventually, at some point, go of the way that even our forefathers have gone. We all going to have to die at some point. But he being a righteous man, read on.
Isaiah 38, verse 4. Then came the word of Yahuwah to Isaiah, saying, Go and say to Hezekiah, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Dawood, or David, Your father, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears. Behold, I will add unto your days 15 years.
He's going to add how many years to his life? 15 years. All right? Read on.
And I will deliver you and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city. And this shall be a sign unto you from Yahuwah.
Listen to the sign. Listen to the sign. Read on.
That Yahuwah will do this thing that he hath spoken. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz 10 degrees backwards.
10 degrees backwards. All right? We talked about the elliptical pattern of the sun. We talked about the 12 constellations a little bit, all right? When we talk about Leo, Virgo, Aquarius, those are your major constellations. And then we have what we call your minor constellations. And then we have what we call deacons. There are 36 deacons, 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe now gets 3 deacons. And we're going to talk about that once I fill in the blank with all of this here. So that the way that the Father was able to give now, or add 15 years, okay, to Hezekiah's life, is that he turned the sundial back 10 degrees, all right? And each, what's the word can I use here? Each deacon has a margin between each of 10 degrees. So you can have Aries, all right? Aries. You would have a minor constellation, a minor constellation, and a minor constellation, all right? But these are now deacons. They are called your deacons. What the Father doing now is that between each deacon is 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees. So with this side of Aries now, we have 30 degrees. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, okay, because there's a whole lot here, and I just want to make sure I don't go too fast. Now, celestial or astronomy in the Bible. Zakan, if you go to the book of Acts, the 7th chapter, verse 22.
The book of Acts, 2 verse 22.
Listen to this real closely.
You men of Israel, hear these words. Yahushua HaMashiach of Nazareth, a man approved of Elohim among you by miracles and wonders and signs which Elohim did by him in the midst of you, as you yourselves also know. Him being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of Elohim, ye have taken, and by wicked hands have crucified and slain. Continue.
That's Acts 7.
Oh, you said 7.
Excuse me, my fault. Acts 7:22. That was good. It was a good. There was some information in there that would have brought me to the next lesson, but we're not ready to go there not yet. 7:22. We're talking about the celestial sciences in the Bible, astronomy in the Bible.
Acts 7 verse 22. And Moshe or Moses was learned in all the wisdoms of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds.
Right, and in deeds. And so when you look up this word wisdom, is the Greek number 4678. We have the word Sophia. Okay, Sophia. So this talks about wisdom, broad and full of intelligence, knowledge of very diverse matters. The wisdom belongs to men, divine knowledge, spiritual knowledge, science. The science we're talking about, the celestial sciences, is what Moses was actually acquainted with. 2nd Ezra, Zaken, 14:1-6. We're proving in the scriptures beyond a shadow of a doubt that celestial sciences were spoke of in the scripture. We're almost done, Mishpachar. 2nd Ezra, the 14th chapter, verses 1 through 6.
2nd Ezra 14, verse 1. And it came to pass, upon the third day, I sat under an oak.
This is Ezra's, right? Okay.
And behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me, and said, Ezra, Ezra. And I said, Here am I, Yahuwah. And I stood up upon my feet. Then said he unto me, in the bush, I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moshe.
Right, so we see what's going on here now. The way that the messenger is dealing with Ezra is the same way that he dealt with Moses. Read on.
And talked with him when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the mount, of where I held him by me a long season.
Everybody knows they know you know what's going on here, right? I mean, who's been held for this long season? No?
Can you read it again?
I just want to make sure everybody's following along. I don't want to. Yeah, if you can
Read it again.
yes, please.
2nd Ezra 14, verse 4. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the mount of where I held him by me a long season.
So now you know what it says?
Moses?
Oh yeah.
Was it Israel or Moses?
Moses.
No, he's had this is Moses.
Okay.
Okay, so I can.
Verse 5. And told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times.
The secrets of the times. We're talking about the understanding now of the constellations. Read on.
And the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide.
Right. So, this is the thing. When we begin to go into certain things, I also have to make sure that everybody is up to the challenge and taking it to the next level. I spoke with one sister about some information years ago, and she took hold to it. Each got her the information, and she left Israel and is gone into something totally different now. So again, this is the reason why we're not all on the same level. I've said that so many times before. Some of us are still babes in the walk, so I just pray that what we're talking about here now, the celestial sciences, that don't take it and go off into this psychic trends and things like that. That is not what we're talking about here tonight at all. Not at all. We're talking about these constellations and how these constellations are voices of the Father, and how we should be able to look at the constellations and tell exactly what's going on. Because before it manifested itself here on this terrain, on the earth, it had already happened in Shamayim. And the way that it happened in Shamayim is that Adam, all the way down to John the Revelator, they saw this now by looking at this battle now that was going on with these constellations. So when we see John the Revelator talking about dragons and four-headed beasts and all this stuff like that, right? People would say that, you know what, that's not what John the Revelator actually saw. But that's exactly what he saw, but he saw it through constellations. Draco, okay, the man with the serpent wrestling, he saw all these things. He saw the battling now of these moons as they came in close proximity of one another, and it caused a destruction. And what happened now is that what he saw now is being manifested again here on the planet Earth. So first it happens in Shamayim, then it happens here on the planet Earth. Read on. Was there more to that?
Yeah, verse 7. How far you
Okay, just to verse 6.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the book of Josephus, page 32, Zakane. And we're going to speed it up here a little bit so we can get at least this part done. So we should be done in about 30 minutes, Mr. McCall. That should bring us about 8:45. Right here. Yeah. Page 38, this is paragraph.
Page 32.
Yeah, 32. So we got paragraph 2. Chapter 7, paragraph, yeah.
Okay, the book of Josephus, chapter 7, paragraph 2. Berosus mentions our father Abraham, or Abram, without naming him. When he says thus, "And thou 10th generation after the flood, there was among the Chaldeans a man righteous and great and skillful in the celestial science."
Skip, and this is, he's talking about Abraham. Now, we have these ancient writers like Philo, we have even Eusebius, but I'm not going to give him too much credit, all right? And Pliny, and we have Josephus. They all talk about Abraham, and Abraham was very skillful in celestial sciences. This is page 2 in the Iniquity of the Jews in the book of Josephus, chapter 7, verse 2.
Page 32.
Excuse me, page 32.
Yes.
Zakane, that's all we have with that. We're going to go to the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter, verses 21 to 24. And we have we've done it less than 30 minutes. Daniel, the 9th chapter, verses 21 to 24.
The book of Daniel 9, verse 21. Yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man, Gabriel, whom I seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation.
About what time was that? Anybody know about what time that was, the evening oblation?
About 3.
Hallelujah. Go ahead.
And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give you skill and understanding.
Hallelujah. So the skill and understanding is that he's going to now break down, okay, this vision that Daniel saw in, okay, go ahead, read on.
Verse 23, at the beginning of your supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show you, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision.
This is the vision, right? So the vision goes on talking about the 70 weeks and everything like that was determined upon the children of Israel to make reconciliation for the iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision of the prophecy, and to anoint the most set apart. The word there that we should be looking at is the word prophecy. Prophecy is something that didn't happen yet, but it's going to happen in the future. And so now is that we have Gabriel is going to break down this vision of this prophecy to Daniel. I just wanted to let everybody know is that Daniel was also skillful in celestial science. The book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 4.
Daniel 1, verse 4. Children in whom was no blemish, but well favored.
Oh, one more thing. My fault, okay. 1 through 4. Yeah, Daniel, the first chapter, verses 1 through 4.
Daniel 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And Yahuwah gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of Elohim, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his Elohims. And he brought the vessels into the treasured house of his Elohims. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Yashra'al, of the king's seed,
And King seed. Okay.
and of the princes,
Right.
children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
Right. And so
Wait,
we
hold on. I was waving my hand. You guys.
Okay, so we have Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, which are the names that Nebuchadnezzar gave these men here. These were of the king's seed, and so the king's seed got special education. They got the best knowledge, wisdom, and so they were learned in all of the sciences. And we have Nebuchadnezzar taking these boys here and actually having these boys here now teach the Chaldeans on how to read and understand the constellations. Bereshit, the 37th chapter, verses 4 through 9. We have one more scripture. Genesis, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 3.
You said Bereshit,
Mm-hmm.
37, you said the first one?
Yes, Bereshit 37,
4 through 9, right?
4 through 9.
Gotcha.
The book of Bereshit, or Genesis 4 through 9. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more,
And that's,
you said 37, 4 through 9.
yes,
right?
37.
Okay,
yes.
right. Genesis 37, 4 through 9. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed the dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf.
Mm-hmm.
And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream,
This is Joseph.
and told it his brother, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance
Yeah, that's a tongue twister.
obeisance
Uh-huh.
to me.
Verse 10.
Verse 10. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to you, to the earth?
Right, hallelujah. And so verse 10, we have the interpretation of verse 9. We have the sun, the moon, and the stars. So we have Jacob here, shall I, which is the father, thy, the mother, which is the moon, and the brethren representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Revelation 12, 1 and 3. Revelation 12, 1 and 3.
Revelation 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
Right. Anybody know what time of the year that constellation, except for Zakar and Moreh, what time of the year that constellation comes into play? Anybody? That happens during the 7th month. That's the 7th month. Anybody? Read that again. I'll show it to you. Read it.
Revelation 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven.
Okay, so just wondering that this is a sign in Shamayim. A great sign was shown in Shamayim. Read on.
A woman clothed with the
A
sun.
woman clothed with the sun. This woman is actually Betula. This is the virgin, which came into play now with the first resurrection, the first birth, which now was the Mashiach. Read on.
And the moon under her feet.
And the moon was under her feet. The constellation looks something like this. Something like that, all right? And so, when you look at that constellation now, the moon is about right here. Where did it make mention the moon was at this particular junction? Because this is a prophecy, a future prophecy. We're talking about the second coming of the Mashiach. Where was the moon at this point? The moon represents the woman also, but this woman is a particular one, which is the nation of Yashra'al. As this moon travels, once it's between her feet, she's now giving birth. All right? Upon her head were 12 stars. These 12 stars represents the 12 tribes of Israel. And she was illuminated, and this illumination came from the sun. So you have all three constellations at play here. You have the sun, we have the moon, and you have the stars. You go back to Genesis, the 37th chapter, you see the sun, the moon, and the stars. And when you're actually able to see it, the reason why I'm so excited is because I actually saw it. Actually saw it. So to read it is not going to do the same justice as singing this. All right? So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to share something with the Yashra'al, and we'll be done. We talked about some key words here. What we have here is what we call an ecliptic path. This is the path of the sun. It's traveling all the way till it gets to this point here. This right here in the middle would be called the North Star. If you can find the North Star, you will be able to find all of the constellations. The North Star. This North Star is also called Polaris. The way that we begin to understand when the year begins, according to the path, or this elliptical path of the sun, this figure right here is called, anybody know what this is right here? Because I have one here, two here, there's one here, there's another one here. Except for Moreh and Zakar.
Would that be Aries?
The Big Dipper.
The Big Dipper. Hallelujah. So this is what I found interesting. Is the position of the Big Dipper during the spring. And we're talking about at a certain time this happened. This is happening at an equinox. The Big Dipper represents, just as it is, it's a big cup. It is dipping and it's emptying and then it's being filled up again. At this point here, what we're looking at are 7 stars. This is a star, this is a star, all of these are stars. And I can, not every, but the mass majority of the time since I moved, particularly at this house where I'm at now, because I can see a lot clearer. I'll always look up into Shamayim, but I can see the position of this Big Dipper here. This happens between March and April. This is also followed by a very strong sign, and this is actually now, when we go into how the camp was set up in the wilderness, this represented Judah. That was Judah, which is Leo the lion. Then we have now, as the sun is traveling this elliptical path, we now get to this constellation, and this is now the summer, or we call the summer solstice. With the summer solstice now, the way that the tribes were set up in the wilderness, this now was the camp of Dan. This was the camp of Judah. This was the camp of Dan. This constellation during the summer, which happens between like June the 21st to July the 21st, the Big Dipper would be in this position. And watch the position now. When you look at these constellations, you're looking at the most important points now is the handle. And everything is properly aligning with these four major constellations here. Then as we go on, we have now, this is the summer solstice, this is the vernal equinox, this is the summer solstice, this is now your fall equinox. Here you see you have here, this is the east gate. Moreh had talked about the east gate. The importance of the east gate is that Israel, when we were kicked out of Eden, now we left out through which gate? The east gate. This, again, Mishpachar, there's a lot here. A whole lot. Okay, let's speed it up here. So we have the east. Then we have down here, which is the west gate. And this west gate here represents Ephraim. This is Ephraim. Ephraim. I think Moreh had talked about this before. Where we have now, in the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel had a vision of these four creatures, or these four beasts that came from out of what some people call it a spaceship. That is not talking about a spaceship. Okay? That is not a spaceship, all right? Again, we have Ezekiel now getting the understanding about what is about to happen to the nation of Israel, because Israel is about to go into captivity. But we must understand again the constellations. The reason why I went to the book of Daniel, because Daniel was told that we would be in the Babylonian captivity for 70 years. He knew how to count the time by looking at the stars of Shamayim. This is the reason why I always say, listen, you know what, the 400 years is great. But what happens now is that we must also understand 7 times 7, which is 49, plus 1 year gives us the 50th year. Israel is to be redeemed out of this captivity here now during a Jubilee year. The same way when the Father came to Moses and said, listen, you know what? This is now the beginning of years for you. This is also now the time when Israel came out during a Jubilee cycle. The Jubilees are extremely, extremely important. But you can only see this now when you begin to understand how the constellations are working. And how Israel was actually centered now in the wilderness. Oh boy, it's a lot. So, let me just keep on going here. Dan represented the constellation one was like a man. And we have the other one here, which was Reuben. This is during the winter. Reuben represented the eagle. What was it the eagle?
Say that again, Moreh.
Reuben, when the camp was set up in the wilderness, when we look at the four beasts, I think Reuben was the man. He represented the man, and Dan represented the eagle. Excuse me. And Ephraim represented the ox. Everybody's familiar with the four beasts that came? Oh, okay, all right, great, hallelujah. So, also with this is that we have harvest season. During March and April, we have the barley season. All right? During the summer, we have the wheat harvest. During the fall season, we have the ingathering, things that grow from like the grapes, the things of the vine. Now, this is where it gets kind of complicated, and we have to go through this a little bit later on. Anybody know what festival that it is in the scriptures, but what was gathered during the winter?
Wood.
Right, the wood, the wine, and the olives. Okay, so this is what was gathered during this time here. Within side of this, again, we have what we call deacons. We talked about that a little bit. Each one of these cycles represents 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. What's interesting about this is that the 90 degrees is, let me just move to this side here as I can. 90 times 4 is 360. This is the perfect circumference of the sun's elliptical path when it starts from this point all the way around till it gets to this point here. Every 24,000 years, it moves from one constellation to the next. When Israel came out of Egypt the first time, we came out under the astrological sign of Aries. Now we're under the astrological sign of, anybody knows what sign we're under now? Constellation?
Aquarius.
Not yet. Pisces. We're still under Pisces now. After Pisces now comes Aquarius. This is the reason why the Mashiach now was speaking now to Netzers, the Zodiac priest lines, when he told now his disciples now to watch the man that had the water pitcher. The man that had the water pitcher now were a group of men that lived now in the Qumran community, and they understood all of these celestial movements of the constellations. This is how the Magi's knew how to actually get to the Mashiach. They followed a star constellation. And these were Chaldeans, and Chaldeans, like me and Mike was talking about, these are not Babylonians. The Chaldeans now are actually now the descendants of Seth. They're Sethites, like you and I. Okay, now, we have 360, because 90 times 4 is 360. Now we have what we have with the intercalary days, where we now have like a 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31. That represents each vernal equinox now, we have the changing of a season. So you add that extra day, so we now have 364 days in a year. Now, what becomes interesting with all of this now is that we have now this prophetic calendar, because it's speaking a language to us, and we need to understand or understand the language. What we now have now is 360. 360 is prophecy. It's prophecy. 400 years is prophecy. 360 times 400 gives you the 144,000 that the scriptures is talking about the children of Israel. You can't make no mistakes about it. But we can only come to this understanding now, or understanding, when we come to a fuller understanding on how these constellations are moving. And again, when you're able to visually see it, it's going to take you on a whole different level of understanding the scriptures. And for that, Mr. McCall, I'm going to shut it down, because we need to know where this information is coming from. And I'm just going to say for right now, the Qumran community, all right, and the Essenes are not the same people. They are not the same people, and we're going to go into some depth about that. This whole lie that the Dead Sea Scrolls were actually revealed in 1947, that is not true. That is not true. We're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about where did Paul come from, all right? We're going to talk about this whole thing about beyond the Jordan. Where is beyond the Jordan, where the Mashiach kept going? We're going to talk about why did Joseph, okay, once he found out that Herod was dead, okay, and there was now another king ruling over Jerusalem, and he went to a certain city, okay, that he didn't want to go to Jerusalem. But it mentioned that he went to a place called Netzer, or Nazareth. There is no place that's called Nazareth in the scripture. It doesn't exist. But there was a group of people now that were called Netzers. And we need to understand who are these Netzers that the scriptures keeps talking about. It's throughout the whole scripture. Even Shaul makes mention now about En-Gedi and how far this is from Jerusalem and is... Okay, we'll stop there. We'll stop there. I have a ton of information, a ton. But, Mr. Makar, for now, are there any questions? And the reason why I wanted to bring this out is because this is all centered around the next Jubilee, the next Passover. Like Moreh has brought out so many times before, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Israel is going to come out during a Jubilee year. That trumpet is blown in the 49th year, in the 7th month, 10th day, making the announcement that the next year, which is the 50th year, is when Israel is going to come out of Egypt. This Egypt again right here now, the same way that we came out of Egypt the first time. And we're going to show all of that here in the scriptures. We go over some more Wednesday. And that's what I have, Mr. McCall. I didn't mean to take so long. But are there any questions? I talked about other messengers. I talked about the fathers giving Israel his portion, and this conversation that Moses is having with Pharaoh is a lot more deeper. That he didn't know Yahuwah. He didn't know that there was a constellation change. This was going on. And we're going to talk about the Babylonians, the Medo-Persian Empire. We're going to talk about the Greeks. We're going to talk about Antiochus Epiphanes. We're going to talk about Seleucus. All these guys here, man, have messed up all of this right here. Messed it all up. And this is how, and the reason why we're lost. Any questions, please, please, please. Give me some questions. Because I might have missed some things. But any questions? I know I said a lot.
Videos are here, and everybody should watch the videos.
Hallelujah. 7th grade time.
Okay.
Have any questions, Fred?
Okay. So, Ms. McCarr, I'm going to end the lesson there. Moreh is going to come up and talk about the importance again of Pasach. And I'm glad that everybody is here again, and it's a joy to see everyone here. And let's keep moving forward in Torah, in doing the things that we need to do to be accepted in the eyes of the Father, Yahuwah, through his Son, Yashra'al Mashiach.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay, without further ado, we're going to have Moreh.
You'll keep that going, right? That's one of the videos.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Come on, let's give Moreh a hand for Let's give our chief elder, Dr. King Gabario, Shabbat shalom, everybody. You ain't got to be nervous. I just want to say thank the Most High Yahuwah for another wonderful set apart Shabbat. One of the Moedim, and we just, want to always remember these times are important to us, and, these are the things that we're supposed to rehearse to prepare us, to keep us, in the right frame of mind, and, to keep us ready for his return, ready for our redemption, because he said we slumber and we don't sleep as the others. You don't have to remind us, because we are aware of the appointed times in the season. So we always need to keep those things at mind and at heart. And I just want to say, when it comes to these days right here, we should always leave one looking forward to go into the next. So that means, now we should be putting in or preparing to be off for the next one. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're careful, you'll see us, we'll put in time for our vacation, our birthdays, just anything we want to do. But when it comes to these days are important. And you have to watch that. I want y'all to look at the mindsets of the saints in this last hour. You see people get more and more and more relaxed. You have to watch that because Shaitan will give you a mindset, I'll be all right. And what you do, you'll find yourself playing in the last hour, and you'll catch yourself, you'll be caught standing on the outside looking in. So we want to keep keep that in mind, that, we really need to look at these things, take these days, not only just the mornings or the festivals, but just our Shabbat gatherings in general. You need to be around your family, and it's imperative and it's important that you be around those with like minds. Because let me tell you something. The more you stay away from your family, you'll see how easy it is to be pulled out of the wall. Somebody go out there and check on the quotations. And keep that in mind because, we're living in a time when we need each other. We're living in a time when we need to be around each other. Because you can see what's going on in the world. It seems like these folks have a bullseye, and they do, on the backs of the children of Israel. You look at Shaitan, he's trying to break up families, he's trying to break up congregations. It's crazy. And the crazy thing about it is we can see these things happening, and it does not bother us. That's the crazy thing. And you can see, you got to know, you should be able to feel the squeeze and feel the pressure and know where we are as a nation. For some reason, we think we have all of these decades ahead of us to just relax and play and be in folly, but that's not true. That's not so. And that's why the book warns us that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man returns. People are going to be what? Married and giving it married. They're going to be going on with their what? Everyday life. And it's going to catch them by surprise. But we should be looking for his return. He told us to watch as well as pray. We should be looking and watching, seeking his return. But it's hard for us to do because we get occupied by other stuff. And for me, myself personally, I don't want to see nobody left behind. Nobody left out. Every opportunity we get to be able to be in the household of faith, we should make our best efforts to be here. I know, and I understand that some of us have jobs and stuff, and that's understandable. But whenever you have a day off, you have time to be here, we should be here. Because y'all know, I'm not talking about that because y'all know I've missed some days about when I've had to work on a weekend or something. But those weekends when I don't have to work, where do y'all find Moreh? Right here. Because that's my dedication. He called me to do this. And I know we're in a system that, hey, sometimes we have to work on these weekends in order to survive. This ain't like the Christian church where they say name it and claim it, blab it and grab it, or however you do it. We do what's necessary to survive, but we do that until Yahuwah provides and open a door and gives us another way or presents us with another job or something. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not telling anybody not to feed their family. Because I know at all times I might not be able to feed them. I might be able to hang in there with you, we go, but I'm not telling anybody to quit their job because let me tell you something, you don't get to dictate your position in captivity. It does not work like that, y'all. So I understand that, but as many times the opportunity that we get, we need to be in the household of faith because our strength is amongst each other because I can tell you a lot of things just in conversation, but there's nothing like being here where you're able to sit down and eat and get a full course meal. That me spoon feed you bites here and there. And you know, let's keep these things in mind when we you know, we have time. Let's make it our business to be here. And for those who can, I mean, we got Scott and somewhere around when? Late September, October. We should be prepared. We're going to get those dates out if we haven't already. So, you know, you can have time to prepare for that. Even if you can't come the whole week, half of the week, come fellowship and be there with your brother. We had a lot of saints, they would come out and just spend time in the day, and they would leave and come back the next day. We had some, they come out and spend time in the evening or at night, and they leave. But you know, come out and fellowship, participate, and be with the Mishpachah. And you know, let's keep these things in mind. Just keep lifting each other up in prayer, and just continue to pray a covering over each and every one. Each and every last one of us need a covering. And we need to pray that we continue to cover each other, especially our young men and young women. You know, we got our young brother getting ready to go off to school in this summer, or is it in the fall? August. In August. You know, we need to pray that the Most High be with him, cover him, protect him, and pray that, you know, he's been sitting under the word now, how long? Just about a year, 9 months, 10 months. He know enough to go down there and share, you know what I'm saying? You got to know everything to tell, like, hey brother, have you considered this? Do you know your nationality? Do you know who you are? And you know, these are the things that you know, I did when I went away to school. Not go away to school, but when I went to school, you know, I was on campus. I did not keep my mouth closed. You know, because I want people to know. And you know, these brothers, me and Moreh, we used to hold it down there. Moreh be coming from my line like, hey, what you doing? Can you come up to Kennesaw right quick? And we put it down up in there. Off up in college, like our Kennesaw State. But anyway, you know, we thank the Most High for that, and just keep these things in mind. And we thank the Moreh for such a wonderful lesson. I really enjoyed that. I can't wait to hear the part 2 of them going in when I go on Monday. I'm gonna let them know that I'm gonna come work an early shift and be off for Wednesday evening. Yes. And you gonna do it? Or we come back going to the house this coming week?
Yes, starting next. Yeah, I'll pick up classes on Wednesday again.
Okay.
This Wednesday.
So we're gonna do that, and right now I just want to open up the floor for anybody have any comments. If I want to give thanks to, no, let me turn it in the hands of our Chief Elder Gabar. Zaza King Gabar, y'all let him have words.
Yeah.
Then he can extend it over to the board.
Well, you know, Moreh, he spoke some great wisdom, and I want to say that he has said this before. I think that we need to really start reaching out more to each other.
Yeah.
We really need to really start reaching out more to each other because, you know, Moreh said this before, man, that we don't know what we're going through. We don't know what our brethren and our sisters are going throughout the weeks. You know, sometimes, you know, they need to hear, you know, from their brothers and their sisters, you know, to help them get through whatever they're going through. You understand? So, yeah, I think it's very important. So, you know, that we can continue to, you know, strengthen each other. You know, let everybody know that we're there for them, check up on them, make sure everybody's good. You know, so, you know, that they can feel the love. You know, yeah, they gotta feel the love, man. And, you know, find out what's going on with your brothers, you know, your sisters. So, you know, that's really, you know, about it. You know, that I got to say, and I got too much to say. just reach out to each other. I don't think that we talk enough. I really don't. I don't think we talk enough. I mean, me personally, I'm guilty of it myself. But I do reach out to a couple of brothers. You know, I could reach out to more brothers. But I know how strenuous the week is. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's working and stuff like that. Well, you know, maybe we can just give a little text or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you know y'all get a chance to respond back. Let us know that you got the text. You know? Let us know you got the text, man. That you know, our reaching out isn't in vain. You know, so let's try to let's just try to get more in contact with each other during the weeks and stuff like that. Just to make sure everybody's good.
Hallelujah. So we're gonna, I'm gonna turn it back in the hands of Moreh. You can come and,
You know, before you go, just for the video and people out there, can you actually explain what Pasach is? Pasach, just in some quick knowledge, you know? Because I have people on listening,
okay.
and they didn't know nothing about the Israelite faith.
So what Pasach is, it's commonly known in the secular or throughout Christianity. You see the word in English, what they call Passover. And what you see with Passover is, you see the nation of Yashra'al, they're actually exiting something and entering something else. So you see the nation of Yashra'al in captivity, but they have to cross or go through what we will see as a door or the blood. Now, that's very key, very important. There's a reason why they were asked to put the blood on the doorposts, to cover them, to protect them and shelter them from something. And that's the same thing that takes place with the nation of Yashra'al or Israel. So we see that with the nation of Yashra'al. Now, I like to look at Pasach myself, or Passover, as a birth, being that Egypt or Mizraim is the womb that they were birthed out of, and it was in the wilderness that they became a nation. They were birthed into a nation, and when they became a nation, it's very important to see what went on in the wilderness. In the wilderness, they received a constitution or a body of legislation to do what? Govern that nation. Now, this is just like a Cliff Note version of it because we're trying to do something. But, Moreh, if you want to add on to that, or?
Okay, yeah, no, well, Passover is basically about Israel being redeemed from captivity. There were instructions that was given to Moses on how to actually do that Passover at that time. You get the lamb on the 10th day. You kill the lamb between the 2 evenings. And Israel was redeemed not by the meat, but by actually the blood.
The blood.
Right, and so the blood was actually the instrument or the procedure that was actually used to actually deliver, again, Israel from out of Egypt. And then we have the Mashiach with his time when he started to do his ministry, where when we begin to look at the blood, we see that now can only take place once at the second coming of the Mashiach. When we now have that covenant meal. So the covenant meal that we're about to have is only symbolic of what's to come in the future. And you know, we have the whole thing about the 7 days of unleavened bread. If any brother or sister wants to do that, fine. But we know the spiritual applications behind that. You know, we're not looking to not eat bread for 7 days, so no leaven for 7 days, and then after that, bring the leaven back into your cooking. So that's kind of like defeating the purpose. So Passover is about keeping the leaven out of your house forever. You know, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If a person wanted to actually read the story, I think this is Shemot, the 12th chapter. Yeah, so that you can read the whole story. You know, about death angels, firstborn being saved and Noah delivered. So you can read that in Exodus, the 12th chapter.
And I think we got lessons on the website on Passover.
Yeah, we do.
And we'll see how important. And you know, all of these things, they tell a picture. That's why it's important for people to understand the Moreh, because the Moreh are the directions, and it gives you the picture of how our redemption will take place. If you understand the feast days and the festivals, you understand the redemption and Yahushua's return to redeem the nation of Yashra'al. Every last one of them is important. So when we look at that, we just look at these things, and you'll see, and what we should be seeing, I don't care what festival or feast day it is, the number one goal is to see the works of the Father through His Son, HaMashiach, Yahushua. You have to see Yahushua in every festival. And if you can't see Him in every festival, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
You'll miss the time of your visitation because you don't understand, you can't see.
Right.
That's why Apostle Shaul, what he said, I don't have need to speak to you of the appointed times and seasons.
Right.
He said, for you don't slumber and sleep as the others do. Why is he making mentioning of the appointed times and seasons? If you understand the appointed times, you understand the Father's redemptive plan of salvation for the nation of Yashra'al.
Absolutely.
But because of time restraints now, we're going to get ready to go ahead and partake in our Passover meal, which, like Moreh said, is symbolic of what's to come. So we're going to do that. And also we want to thank all of our listening audience by way of YouTube or Facebook. We really appreciate you tuning in and being a part of what's going on today. But if need be, we'll go back. We'll do some little small lessons, take baby steps to break it down for people and progress as they get a fuller understanding. Because I know just in that short answer, whatever, abbreviated answer, whatever, they may still not fully understand. So I'm willing to do that. It don't make a difference. We can do some smaller lessons just on the Moreh themselves and break each and every last one of them down and give the fundamental understanding. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back in the hands of our senior Moreh, Kasadahba Yashra'al, and he's going to direct us forward into the Pasach meal.
Go through the camera here too. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and close out. Mr. Khan, we want to thank everybody for attending services today. We want to thank all of the sisters and all of the brothers that participated in helping get everything together. Moreh and Isha, we know that they did a spectacular job as always. And Mr. Khan, let's continue the good fight. The good fight is making sure that we keep our eyes on the prize, which is the kingdom. All right? So, without further ado, we'll blow the shofar. We'll just have Zakena blow the shofar 7 times, and I'll do the prayers for the food. Right?
Hallelujah.
thanks and honor to you for your son, Yashra'al, the atoning sacrifice for the nation, Yashra'al. Father, Abiyah, we pray that your will be done on earth as it is in Shamayim, and that you continue to baruch us with your love and your mercy and your understanding. Having patience with your people, Father, we can't thank you for enough. We just pray that you just keep us sound, Father. We thank you for the food that we're about to receive. We can never truly thank you enough, Father. This is the reason why we must always be in a submissive mode towards you and to you. I pray for every brother and sister in the congregation, Father Abiyah, that we come together in unity, that we come together in love, that we reach out to one another more, the way that Zakane is sharing with us, so that we can really know what it means to be in a Kad, to be a Mishpachah. We are all brothers and sisters here. Let's all try to do better than what we did last year. Let's look at the real mercy that the Father is sharing with us. Being that the Father has granted us to see another year, let's make the best of this year, because it is no guarantee that any one of us will be here next year. But I do pray that we're all here. I pray that we're all here. Let's continue the good fight. Let's stay in the vineyard. Let's not turn back into the world. And my blessings upon the children of Israel that are scattered abroad. Through your son's name, Yahusha HaMashiach. Hallelujah.
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 Hallelujah.